Hello, everyone, and welcome to AI Explorer Journeys, our podcast where we navigate the world of artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Sarah, and joining me today is my co host, Kevin. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everyone. You know, it's almost impossible to open a tech or finance newsletter these days without being hit by the NVIDIA tsunami. The stock is on fire, the market cap is astronomical, and Jensen Huang's leather jacket has become this unofficial uniform for success.
Right? It's the talk of the town. But beyond the stock price and the jacket, Jensen keeps using this phrase that I find fascinating, the AI factory. At first, I'm thinking, are they building literal factories with smokestacks and assembly lines for robots? But it's something much more profound.
Exactly, it's not a physical factory. It's a conceptual shift. He's basically saying we need to stop thinking about data centers as just warehouses for servers and start seeing them as factories that manufacture intelligence. The answers from ChatGPT, the insights an AI generates for a business, those are the products coming off the assembly line.
That's a brilliant reframe. It turns computing power into productive capacity and the AI-generated tokens into manufactured goods. And this entire concept is being fueled by this absolutely staggering demand for AI compute. I mean, Jensen himself said that a previously predicted billion-fold increase in demand might actually be in times underestimate asterisk. That's not just growth. It's a genuine explosion.
The number is so big it almost loses its meaning. Can you maybe break that down with a practical example? I've heard about this shift to continuous reasoning with AI. Help us understand what that 24/7 consumption of GPU power actually looks and feels like. Well, think about how we used to interact with AI. You'd ask a question, get an answer, and that's it. A single, one-off task. The new paradigm is completely different. Take something like OpenAI's ChatGPT Pulse. You can give it a complex task, and it will work on it in the background, overnight, and then present you with a synthesized digest in the morning.
So the AI is essentially thinking for you while you sleep.
It's working continuously, which means it's consuming GPU power continuously. It's no longer a one-off transaction. It's a utility, like electricity, that's always on. And that's incredibly expensive. It explains why companies are practically throwing money at GPUs. It validates that old saying, pessimists are often right, but optimists get rich. The ones who bet on this infrastructure boom are cashing in. So, from a business perspective, if you're a company wanting to get into AI, NVIDIA isn't just selling you the components, like the chips. This AI factory concept seems to imply a different kind of value proposition. They're not just selling you the shovel for the gold rush. They're selling you the entire optimized gold mining operation. It's a turnkey solution. You get the hardware, the software, the networking, all integrated and fine-tuned to work together to produce intelligence as efficiently as possible. For an enterprise, that's way more valuable than just buying a box of chips and trying to figure out the rest yourself. So, the AI factory marks this fundamental redefinition of compute, driven by an unprecedented, continuous demand for intelligence. This incredible market shift positions NVIDIA uniquely, but how exactly do they maintain their lead in such a rapidly evolving landscape? It feels like everyone is trying to build an NVIDIA killer.
That's the billion, or maybe trillion-dollar question. And the answer is that their competitive moat isn't just one thing, it's several deep interconnected layers. Jensen argues the game isn't about single chips anymore. It's about the entire complex AI factory system. And NVIDIA is on a relentless one-year innovation cycle. Their upcoming Blackwell GPU, for instance, is rumored to be up to 30 times faster than the previous generation on some tasks. 30 times? That's almost an unfair advantage. How can anyone possibly catch up to that pace? It's brutal for competitors. By the time a rival manages to copy last year's chip, NVIDIA is already 2 steps ahead. But it's not just about speed, it's also about scale and supply. NVIDIA gives its suppliers, like TSMC, visibility on multi-billion-dollar orders 3 years in advance. They're essentially booking out all the high-end factory slots. If you're a new startup, you might have a great design, but there's no one to manufacture it for you at scale.
But, while that integrated proprietary approach is powerful, doesn't it create a risk of lock-in for customers? I imagine companies are wary of being completely dependent on one supplier. How does NVIDIA balance that?
This is where their strategy gets really clever. They've built what you could call an open but dominant ecosystem. For example, through things like NVLink, they allow their systems to connect even with Intel processors. They open source some of their software. The message to customers is, look, our platform is the best, but if someone builds a better component, you can plug it in. You're not trapped. Of course, they make sure their own components remain the best, but that feeling of openness builds a huge amount of trust and makes their platform the default choice.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You're not just buying a product, you're buying into a flexible platform. Jensen also talks a lot about total cost of ownership, suggesting that even if a competitor gave away chips for free, they still couldn't compete. From a data center operator's perspective, can you explain why? The biggest limiting factor in a modern data center isn't the price of the chips, it's power. You only have so much electricity and so much physical space. So what matters is money-making efficiency. How much AI output can you generate per watt? If NVIDIA's system produces, say, double the output per watt compared to a competitor, then even if that competitor's chip is free, it's actually more expensive. You'd need twice the space and twice the power to get the same result, and you'd run out of both very quickly. It's like being offered a free car that gets 1 mile per gallon. It's no bargain. It's clear that NVIDIA has built a multifaceted and formidable moat, extending far beyond just the quality of their chips. But even with such strong positioning, the growth has been so meteoric that it's attracted skepticism. How do we distinguish genuine demand from potential hype or even financial maneuvers?
That's a fair question, and it's one Wall Street has been asking. There was this concern about circular revenue, the idea that NVIDIA was just investing in startups, who then used that money to buy NVIDIA's chips. But Jensen's rebuttal is pretty convincing. He says, look, our investments are separate from sales. Companies like OpenAI don't buy millions of dollars in GPUs as a favor. They buy them because they're a business necessity. The proof is in the pudding. Hundreds of millions of people are using ChatGPT. Enterprises and entire governments are prioritizing AI. That's not financial trickery. That's real organic demand.
And it's this real demand that fuels their almost unbelievable long-term vision. I read that Jensen actually thinks NVIDIA could be the first $10 trillion company. That number sounds audacious, to say the least.
It does sound crazy, but 10 years ago, a $1 trillion company seemed impossible, and now we have a handful. His belief is rooted in a simple idea. Human desires are unlimited. Every technological breakthrough creates entirely new industries we couldn't have imagined. Think about the productivity gains. He gives this example. If you spend $10,000 on AI for an employee who earns $100,000, and that employee becomes 2 or 3 times more productive, every company in the world will make that investment. That could lead to $5 trillion in capital expenditure on AI every single year. That brings us back to that optimists get rich idea. But with AI, there are very real concerns about job displacement and market bubbles. How do we reconcile these short-term risks with that long-term optimistic view? I think it's crucial to acknowledge the volatility. No stock goes up in a straight line, and there will be corrections. But the optimistic view, which I share, is that AI is ultimately a net job creator. Every major technological revolution, from the printing press to the internet, changed the nature of work, but it didn't lead to permanent mass unemployment. It created new roles, new industries. For investors and for society, the key is to see the short-term dips and anxieties as noise against a very strong fundamental upward trend. So, it seems NVIDIA's story is really about leading a fundamental redefinition of data centers, turning them from simple compute providers into what they call intelligence factories.
And their dominance is secured by this sophisticated, multi-layered moat. It's not just one thing. It's the relentless innovation cycles that outpace everyone, the strategic control over the supply chain, and an ecosystem that delivers a far superior total cost of ownership or money-making efficiency. And underpinning it all is this deep-seated optimism. Despite the real concerns about market bubbles or disruption, their long-term vision is built on genuine, verifiable demand and the seemingly boundless potential of AI to transform human productivity and create entirely new industries.
It really reflects that philosophy of betting big on the future. Those who embrace that kind of transformative power, even when it seems uncertain, are the ones who are positioned to reap the greatest rewards. NVIDIA's journey is more than just a corporate success story. It's a microcosm of humanity's relentless pursuit of intelligence and efficiency. As AI continues to merge with every facet of our lives, from robotics to personal companions, the AI factory blueprint laid by NVIDIA hints at a future where the very fabric of our world is re-engineered by artificial intelligence. The question isn't if we will reach a multi-trillion-dollar AI economy, but rather, what new dimensions of human potential and societal structure will be unlocked, or perhaps redefined, when intelligence itself becomes the ultimate manufactured product? All right, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and thank you, Kevin, for the great discussion. Before we wrap up, let me remind everyone today's discussion reflects personal views only, not investment advice. Please consult professionals before making financial decisions.
That's right. Thanks for tuning in to the AI Explorer podcast. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all for today. See you next time.